Alright, so my battery just died on the camera. I had to change it, but uh alright, so when I was age 15 or 16, my older sister used to tell me about how horrible my future would be and how alone I would be. It's just another instance of my sister just being mean and horrible. This wasn't the only thing my older siblings used to do. They used to say a lot of stuff about how horrible the future would be and how terrible the world was. They'd talk about how, if they would watch these like documentaries, and then the documentaries would just make them have all these horrible feelings about the world, and then they'd tell it to me. And my one sister used to say like, "Oh, if every country lived like Canada did, we would need 7 Earths." It's like, when you say stuff like that to people, it fucks with their head, because they have no conception of the world and how big it is and the resources and what's going on in all the countries and everything. They just kind of feel bad. And that's the point of a lot of these messages, is like to make people feel bad. And kids don't really understand the broader concepts that go along with this stuff. So, yeah, they but my one of my other sis my sister would say to me about how you know, she's gonna leave, my other sister's gonna leave, my brother's gonna leave. Then it'd just be me and mom, and it would be so horrible. And then mom's gonna leave, and you're gonna be by yourself. And my older brother would tell me, "You're gonna have such a hard time finding a place to live, and it's gonna cost so much money." And just making you feel like fucking shit. And like, it's all like the scarcity mindset stuff too. And it's just like, people don't realize how damaging that can be to, someone's worldview when they're young, right? It can really mess with it. And like, so now I've gotten older. It's taken me a long time to figure out, like, uh, you know, to the truth about the world and what's going on, as close as I can find to it. But that's like a whole process. And partly it's just so I don't have to like be subjected to, uh, like, you know, people just trying to lie and make you feel terrible. So, um, yeah. Anyway, or subjected to a narrative that just like is to make you feel horrible. I should put it that way. The Bible offers hope because it is true what it says in there, and the truth is actually good. The truth is that God loves us, and that we will live forever with God, and that uh, we will feel good forever, essentially, because being with God feels good. So people, when they say stuff about how horrible the world is, and how they get catastrophizing about how like everything's gonna be terrible and the world's gonna end and whatever, and robots gonna take over and all this blah blah blah. It's like, if you're a Christian, you're okay. Like, you've already won. Jesus is salvation. And the thing is that you have this like body here on earth, and it's like you're here um to return to God, to love God, and that love, it goes forever. It's expansive. It's eternal. That's what God is. He's immortal, eternal, and mighty, and clean, holy. Holy means clean. And so that's why you purify your soul. This world is fallen. This world is fading away. This world is not meant to last forever. But it tells us in the Bible that God will create a new heaven and a new earth, or a new earth. And we'll have a place there, and God will make a place for you in his house, because um, he can do anything, and he knows that you're coming. Like, if you purify, if you have faith in him, you repent and you believe in him, and you follow his teachings through Jesus Christ and in the Holy Spirits, and worship him. Okay. So, anyways, um, alrighty. Okay, so my oldest, when I was 15 or 16, my oldest sister, she ran away to another part of the country. She basically left our province and just left like 25 hours away or something, drive. And yeah, she just took off. She barely explained anything. It's just gone. And then I saw her since then a few times, but she never gave an explanation. She never really gave a proper acknowledgement. She never anything. And so, and it was always weird because it was always fake happy. It's like, what is all that shit? I don't understand the fake fucking happiness when all this other shit's going on and nobody wants to acknowledge it. It's just, that's just blindness, you know? That's just delusion and blindness and this positive mindset crap. And it's like, you guys are nuts. Why does nobody acknowledge anything that's real that's going on? And it's not because I want to stay on it forever and just make everybody feel horrible. It's because this is the reality and we can work through it. We can talk about it. And, you know, that's how actually people will feel more united and closer because it's like talking about the truth. You know what I'm saying? But nobody even wants to talk about it. So, yeah. And then she sent me this birthday card, I think like 2 years ago. Or was it three? I think it was 2 years ago. And she said to me that, you know, happy birthday and all this and long message. And I thought that was really nice. And then I get to the end of it. It says, P.S. I got married. And that pissed me off really bad because I was like, why would you use a birthday card to say that you got married? Like, you know, what's the focus? Is it on wishing me a happy birthday? And then it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I got married. That's so retarded. That's so wrong. That's so backwards. It's like, if you got married, if you're gonna get married, wouldn't you tell your family? She does it in secret, doesn't tell anybody, gets married, sends me a birthday card, and then puts P.S. I got married. I don't even know who this guy is. Who is he? And then so I called her, and we didn't really talk at all. But I called her, and I was asking her, like, what is going on? Like, why would you send me that? And she's like, she gets extremely defensive. She's like, I thought you would be happy for me. It's like, how am I supposed to be happy for you? I don't even know who this guy is. I don't even, you didn't tell me, we haven't even really talked. You didn't tell me anything. It's like, so that's just retarded. That's just wrong. That's not the way you do stuff like that. And then and she solicits at the end of my birthday card that I am supposed to, uh, like be happy for her. You know what I mean? Like, how does that make any sense? You know what I mean? I'm not just like, um, gonna be happy for her for that, like, out of nowhere. Like, I do think it's a good thing. I think that she should get married and be happy, and have a family and whatever, but I just don't like the lack of acknowledgement about the reality of things. It's like she did it in secret. Well, she did it, she barely talked to us, me, did it in secret, or got married in secret, and then tells me at the end of a birthday card. So it's like, why did you send the birthday card? Like, what was the focus? Was it on me or was it to tell me about your marriage? You know, just send me a fucking card saying I got married. And you know, it's about this. It's about the story that goes along with it because I'm not stupid. I'm not a retard. Like, normal people don't do stuff like that. That's abnormal. That's not right. Like, have some at least acknowledgement. You know, say like, you know, this is kind of weird and I know that we haven't talked and I know that I didn't tell you anything, but hey, I got married and you know, I would really appreciate if you could, you know, I would love it. I would love if you could if we could talk more about it. something like that just like would be more normal. But anyways. All right. So when I was age 16 to 19, my older brother used to have these huge fights with my mom. He was into drugs at this time. He basically spent like 10 years of his life or more on various drugs of like an escalation from like small stuff like cigarettes, weed, up to like cocaine, MDMA, all this other stuff. I'm pretty sure he says he's done like everything, but he ended up doing like getting into like meth, heroin. He was saying he was doing fentanyl at some point, but he used to have these huge fights with my mom, and I don't know exactly what drugs he was on, but he would just be having like crazy fights, like screaming fights, and they would just be like so frequent. And there was just these huge blow-ups, and she would be like shrieking at the top of her lungs, and I would just like go into escapism. I'd shut my door, I'd try and listen to music, I would try and play video games. I'd just try and avoid it. It's just crazy. So when I was age 19, my mom eventually she just ran away from the house, and she denies that she ran away. And I got pissed because I was like, yeah, you fucking did run away because you didn't tell anybody you were leaving. You didn't call. You didn't do anything to let us know what was going on. You just left, and then you were gone for like a long time, like 2 weeks or something, or like longer. And so like nobody knew what was going on. And she's like trying to explain it from her position. I was like, how is anybody supposed to know what you're thinking? Like, you didn't say anything. And she's like, well, I had this reason why I didn't. It's like, it's fucking 21st century. You have access to phones. You can call. Like, people can pick up the phone and call. It's like, you don't have to be so stupid like that. It's like stupid to try and make other people feel stupid about how your crazy mind works to try and fit into how your crazy mind works. It's like other people are not that stupid. You're not tricking anybody. It's irrational and you ran away, and I'm not buying that you couldn't possibly pick up a phone and call. You couldn't have left a note. You couldn't have said anything beforehand. It's like obviously you just ran away. So my brother at the time, he took over the house while he was on all these drugs, meth, and he was crazy. He would stay up all night. He would be working on random stuff. He would be like, the house was a complete mess. We had these dogs. He built this giant shit wall in the backyard. We lived in like this shitty area. Like, it'd be fine for like people. It's fine for people to live in like a low income area or whatever, but those areas come along with a lot of ghetto behavior, and he was a huge prime example because he built this giant wall of like random boards because he was, I think, paranoid about the neighbor. And he used to like have all these power tools in the backyard, and he'd be like trying to like do scrap metal, so there's all this junk back in the backyard. It's just a giant mess. It's like a huge mess. And if you've ever gone around and you see homeless people in their tents and their camps and whatever, and they have huge piles of crap, that's how it was. Like, he was one of these like hoarder, junk collector, whatever. And my dad was like encouraging it. My dad had started coming around. Like, I didn't know him or see him since I was very young until like about age 16 when he started showing up again. And he never explained anything. He just tried to act like everything was all cool, and he was trying to act cool all the time or whatever. I don't know, but and yeah, he's like a stone. You could never get any kind of emotion out of him, love or care. And my brother tries saying like, oh well, he expressed it in other ways. It's like, if you're a man, you can figure this stuff out, and you can at least like be a little bit caring to your children, like, and try and explain stuff to them. He's just mad about everything else and acts like a victim, right? But he was right into the scrapping, and he was like encouraging it, and it's just like all crap, and it's like, man, it was crazy. It was so crazy. And this is why I kind of like block everything out, but I also that's like a detriment to do that, because you can't actually get to know people very well, you know? And there's this huge shame block that stops you from talking about your own life. And so, anyways, my brother at one point, he was like grinding some stuff to like make scrap metal out of shopping carts or something. And he had this grinder, and he had his foot underneath where he was grinding the metal, and it went through the metal into his foot and like sawed through half of his toe. And he had to call like the ambulance, and like the whole thing was just messed up. And then so eventually he burned down the house, and we had these two dogs, and I think one of them got out, but one didn't get out, and so it killed the dog. And I felt bad for that dog. I felt bad for those dogs the whole time because it was just like erratic. And we had, um, I was out of the house at that time, but I went to go live with my dad because me and my brother had this big fight because he was demanding money from me, and then I refused, and like because he just wanted it for drugs, right? I had gone this whole time, so I was like, I was into self improvement. I was doing all this stuff by myself, trying to do all this stuff. I went to high school. I graduated. I went and did this program to learn how to uh, work on airplanes or in manufacturing, and then I had found a job to do that, and it's like, um, then he started demanding money from me, and oh man, and I wouldn't give it to him, and then um, he we almost got into a fight in the backyard, and I would have fought him right then and there, like seriously. I was mad at him because it was just too much. And then he was demanding money from me, and I didn't care. I was like, I would have fought him right then and there. And then my dad stepped in, and he just like took me away. He like he broke up the fight before it was gonna happen, and he took me to stay with him. And his apartment was just like this like small little like pack rat apartment downtown under the what do you call that? It's like a housing authority or whatever that subsidizes housing. So he let me stay with him, and then yeah, my brother burned down the house, and we had all these like different animals throughout when I was growing up. We had like rats, hamsters. My mom brought home wild pigeons. We had dogs. There was all these cats, you know. Um, so it was just like a complete chaotic mess where I grew up. And then, um, so at almost all different ages, the TV and the computer really ruled the attention for everybody in our house. And it was always everyone's escape. Everyone just went on the computer all the time. Everyone just went on the TV all the time. And people would fight over who could go on the computer and who could go on the TV and who could go on the video game. And that's basically what it was, you know. It was escapism through that, right? And so some days, I actually didn't have food. There was no food in the house. There was nothing really in the fridge. Um, I'd bring all these disgusting, embarrassing lunches to school because my mom would just make me like crap and send it to me, send it with me to school, and like, so I just remember being hungry a lot. And I was also super skinny, growing up, and I had no dad for the majority of my childhood. Um, he would show up rarely, and he would kind of like do the thing where he would bring like gifts or bring ice cream, and he would just show up randomly, and then he would like leave right away because my mom would get mad at him or something. So it was just erratic and crazy. And he ended up showing up more when I was around age 16. And he was trying to be all like buddy buddy, but like, yeah, that's not correct. That's not responsible. That's not cool. Like, yeah. There was all this catastrophizing that went on all the time in the house. Everyone would say things like crazy or go off the deep end or you're driving me crazy. Don't go off the deep end. And they'd be like screaming and stuff. Like, so, anyways, just always hear those terms. There was always warnings about um, people in my family saying that Child and Family Services would show up. CFS is gonna show up. Quit screaming. CFS will come to the door. Child and Family Services, social services, and they'd warn me, or they'd say warnings like CFS is gonna come and take you away, or like Child and Family Services is gonna come take the kids away. My mom would say stuff like that, and like there was like, and fuck, they probably should have. Honestly, like it was that bad. I don't know. It was just so horrible. It's like, can someone please have some stability here? Can someone please figure something the fuck out? Can someone please, you know? And I don't know if it would have been better or not. Like honestly, so but it turned out the way it did, and like so yeah. And then I was another thing is I was always like near constantly, almost daily bullied throughout school, and it got far worse toward middle and high school. I used to get called Ginger all the time because I was the only person who had freckles, and my hair kind of was it's brown, but it's also has like reddish tinge, you know, because I'm Scottish and part Scottish with a tiny bit of Irish, and it's like everybody would just call me a ginger and make fun of me constantly about my freckles, and it was so horrible when I was a kid. I remember trying to make um, freckle lightening juice from like I'd search the internet and I'd try and use it to lighten my freckles, and I'd try not to go into the sun because it made them more prominent, and it's like it was so horrible. Like it just fucked my self-esteem completely. Like the way I looked because I'd get made fun of all the time. And yeah, partly it was because of that South Park episode, the Gingers Have No Soul, and then the Copper Cab response, where he's like, Gingers do have souls. And then the kids at school just like took that and like beat me with that for so long. And it's like, I tried to ignore it and I tried to whatever and I tried to just like, but everyone would constantly make fun of me over that. Not everyone, but a lot of people would. And it sucked. And when I was young too, at school, I didn't really realize, but I was the only white kid in my class. I went to this school downtown and it was like all Asians. There was like black kids. There was native kids. And I was like the only white kid. I remember I looked at my grade 4 picture and I saw I was like the only white kid. Like, what is this fucking country? What is that shit? It's like all this diversity crap. No homogeneity. You know, when I was really young, I didn't really notice it or mind it. But I didn't have any other frame of reference either. And then I went to like middle and high school and I just got, it was just like a zoo. High school was like a zoo. It's like trying to survive that is like a zoo. Because it's like, it's just constant bullying. Like that's what the makeup of the school is like constant bullying, you know? And I did have some friends and stuff, but even my friends would bully me. And then so that's like the environment. It was like I bullied people back, not really that much, but it was more like just it's like constant bullying and who can outdo who to be meaner was kind of how it ended up going, and it's like yeah, so that's really tough. I'm not trying to be like a real pussy or whatever, but or a real like softy or whatever, but I think that you know there's probably a good balance there of but it was not really balanced because it kind of went way too far a lot of the time, and it was just like who can make who feel terrible and who can hurt whose feelings the most, you know? That's kind of how what it evolved into. And then I had these friends, and actually, like, it was nice, like, having friends, you know, like, obviously, but um, it was kind of toxic because definitely we went too far with some stuff. Like, there was this popular culture, there was like roasting was really popular in culture. On TV, there's like the roast of um, Eminem, the roast of Flava Flav, the roast of Lil Jon or whatever. It was like on TV. They would roast people. The roast of Donald Trump or something like. This is before Trump was president. Um, and you would just sit in the roast chair and get all these people making fun of you. And that's kind of like what the culture encouraged. And then so me and my friends, like, we had like the roast chair, and it just was toxic. Like, all this shit was like, a lot of it was just toxic culture, you know? So anyways, the bullying was really bad. And then my mom used to not show up to get me from daycare when I was a kid that went to daycare. And she also put me into daycare until I was in like grade 6. And it was just embarrassing. It's like, okay, daycare is okay for like young kids, but once you start to get that old, it was terrible. I was like the oldest kid, and it's just like I did not want to be in daycare. And she wouldn't even pick me up on time. She would make me wait till I was the last kid to get picked up. And it's like, I know that sounds minor or whatever, but when you're a young, you remember a lot of this stuff, and it really sticks out to you because you're just sitting there and the daycare ladies are like pissed off because, you know, and you feel embarrassed because it's like, why is my fucking family not functional? Like, so dysfunctional. Why is my mom not functional? Like, and she would, you know, come way late until everybody wanted to go home and then pick me up. And it's just like, the whole thing sucked. All right. I always had this constant feeling of embarrassment and shame over my mom, which is still present. And I told her this the other day, you know. I said, how am I supposed to tell people about my family when it's like you never held a steady job, like you never there was no stability, like what am I supposed to tell people that you were on welfare our entire life? Like, part of getting to know people is to share things about your life, you know what I mean? And it's like she's brought shame onto all of us. Like, that's how it is. It's like shameful. And there's this expression, it's like she hung an albatross around our neck. Like, an albatross is like this bird that was supposed to give good luck in for seafarers, and you hang a dead albatross around someone's neck because, you know, they killed the good luck or they brought shame or guilt, like from that old poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, I think, and or The Rime of the Mariner, I don't know, but it's like, how are you supposed to feel good when all of this stuff is going on with your family? And it doesn't make you feel good. It feels terrible. It feels terrible. And it's like, that's a huge feeling of embarrassment and shame, and it really impedes or makes it difficult to have an identity and to move forward because you don't want your identity. I don't want my identity to be that my family is a fucking neurotic, chaotic mess. Why would I want to tell anybody that? You know what I mean? And the culture around in this society is like everyone's fake to begin with. And so it makes it really hard, you know, if you start to try and be real and then it pushes everybody away because they're fake as heck. So anyways, it's really hard. Seriously. Embarrassment and shame is so terrible to experience and to live in. Okay, so there was always like a constant fighting and screaming between my mom, older brother, and my older sister regarding drug use, marijuana use, it started with. and it was really distressing for me. And I just remember there was a lot of fights like that. And you got to remember, at the time, weed was more like reviled. Now it's legal, and so it's actually kind of different. But you're still not supposed to use it under the age of 19. They say, but um, my mom would freak about weed, and so at almost all ages, our house was always dirty and messy. It was never organized. I always felt embarrassed about where and how we lived. I never felt safe to bring people over, except I brought a couple friends when I was young, under 10. And my mom says that she spent a lot of energy to try and keep the house clean, but actually it was not really stable. Like it wasn't stably clean, you know what I mean? And I understand that houses can get dirty at times, but our house used to turn into an absolute mess. I remember when I was 16 and the house was disgusting and there was like dog pee and dog shit because the dogs weren't house trained, and like it was like shit was scattered everywhere, like, or like stuff was scattered everywhere, like papers and stuff, and it was like there's all these like dogs barking, and I was just like, man, my life sucks. Like this, why is it like this so bad? And I never got to tell anybody about this stuff. I never got to process any of this stuff, you know. At almost all ages, I would always have to try and figure out and explain complex concepts to my mom because I thought that's what it was. Like at that age, I thought, oh well, oh okay, so she just doesn't understand. Maybe if I figure it out myself and explain it to her, she'll understand and she'll be she'll get a job. She'll be competent. But I didn't really understand at that time that it's actually a bigger problem than that. It's these problems I didn't understand about trauma, about attachment style, about um, mental illness. I didn't understand about addiction and all this other stuff. Like so, and now she also says that her issue was spiritual, and I was like, I've told her recently. I was like, well, if it was spiritual, why didn't you go see a priest? Like I don't really like to make a bunch of excuses for her because that disgusts me. It's like if you're an adult, if you're a parent, you can address your problems. You can address them. You can at least try to address them. And it doesn't just mean like get angry and give up after you don't succeed on the first thing. Like you try again, right? So, anyways, it just makes me mad that I had to do that. Um, and yeah, the main thing was I was trying to get her to like get a job, and I remember I was trying to explain to her like get a respectful job, like any job, like that's respectable, because I used to go to school and everyone would ask like, what do your parents do? And they talk about their dad and their mom and like where my mom works and where my dad works and yada yada yada. And I used to lie. I used to make stuff up because my mom had no job. She was on welfare. She worked under the table. Like I used to lie and I used to feel terrible. And it was just awful. I had to hide everything. I always felt like I had to hide, and it was due to shame and embarrassment, right? And I didn't even really know what these concepts were when I was young, you know? So it's awful. Um, okay. Oh yeah, and she used to just humor me and patronize me, and I felt really sick about it. You know, she wasn't actually getting the message. She was just manipulating and controlling and treating me like I was a retard, dumbass. Like I'm not that fucking dumb. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm not that stupid. I'm just trying to live healthy and live well. It's kind of like the basic thesis. Um, so. Okay, and then so I had also difficulty getting help from anyone on working through these things. And I had a constant feeling of people trying to control how I feel and not letting me speak, or that they'd get triggered and tell me their own trauma when I began to share mine. So, yeah, I was just never able to really get adequate help. And then the people around me that I would try and talk to about this stuff, it was like I would just trigger their trauma, and then they'd start talking about themselves or their thought patterns or their solutions to everything, and they wouldn't really be able to help. So, yeah, it was horrible. It was fucking horrible. Like, it just makes you feel so alone, makes you feel so terrible. Like, you know, it's awful. So, now, uh, yeah, I'm dealing with like disorganized attachment, which is anxious avoidant attachment. It's like the same thing. I'm still dealing with shame. It's not as bad. It's still not as bad as it was. It's still awful. I'm dealing with loneliness. I'm dealing with chronic pain. Not as bad. It's getting better. I've been going to a lot of treatments. I've gone to I've gone through all of the antidepressants. I've gone through antipsychotics. I've gone through ADHD medication. I've gone through um, tons of supplements. I've gone through uh, a lot of different things. I've gone through so many therapists. I've done a psychology degree. I've done a ton of different things. But I did the brain stimulation, RTMS, magnetic brain stimulation. That did help with anxiety. Um, Having a routine really helps. I've tried a bunch of psychedelics and stuff. I've done a bunch of drinking and drugs. I've you know chased sex a lot. I've chased trying to be some sort of like authority figure to help other people's lives or whatever. I've done a lot of different things, but the things that do help was like the brain stimulation did help. Exercise helps. Routine really helps. Um, Cutting out bad habits, no sugar, no porn, no drugs, no um, escapism, no escapism with video games and stuff, no doing that stuff. And then also like worship, prayer, the Bible, setting boundaries, these things are really helpful. Um, I've gone to treatments like massage for headaches and stuff. Working on parts of the body is really helpful, like with, you can do yoga class, or you can do uh, uh, pressing on certain points that hold tension helps to release it, especially with me in the jaw. Um, that helps. For chronic pain, and yeah, I have a difficulty with all relationships. Um, and that's just like I said, the anxious attachment style. And I was burnt out at my work, and thank God that I got on disability and I've been able to take some time to heal and relax and feel better. Um, and yeah, I'm working on a book, but my book doesn't. It's not really about my life. It's more about narrative theory and um, a, the map of consciousness put together, and then supported by some things. And I've had all these different diagnoses. CPTSD with some dissociation, major depressive disorder. I've been told I had traits of borderline personality disorder. I have been told I have anxiety, generalized anxiety, social anxiety, and I've been told I have ADHD. So, um, I do feel like like, I don't know, I feel like I'm healing from a lot of these things. Oh, I've also been told I had schizoaffective disorder. But I feel like I'm healing from a lot of these things. Um, Through prayer, through routine, through um, like all these different things that I said, which help. Um, but what I experience is high levels of loneliness, and an inability or a disability or a difficulty to connect safely with other people, just to have secure relationships. That's why I really like groups, because group activities and stuff, because it's like you don't have to worry so much about all the pressure of like one on one. You can just like focus on a group activity, and I really enjoy that. It takes a lot of the pressure off. And I still like to get to know people, but I don't like when it gets into like extreme pressure, and then people get triggered if I start talking, or if I bring up something that will trigger people. I don't really realize that it will, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to have to deal with all this. Like now someone's triggered, and I don't really know exactly what to say, and I have to make sure they're okay so that I can be okay. Type of thing. So I'm getting a little better, and I'm also working on conflict so that I can engage in healthy conflicts. I think is important. It's part of boundaries and stuff, and so I still have like emotional dysregulation. It's not as bad. I notice that my family gets it way more than I do, and I notice it in other people too. I'm able to really pick up on like when someone's emotionally dysregulated, when someone's not really making sense, when something's going on. I'm able to pick up on these things. I was getting really bad headaches and stomach aches. That's thankfully faded, thank God. I was getting terrible brain fog. I still sometimes get that. It's not as bad. I still have social anxiety. I had tinnitus. It's kind of faded, or I don't notice it as much. It was like a terrible constant buzzing or ringing in my head. And I've been to see like a ton of therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, specialist massage, acupuncture. I've even tried yoga or light workers or Reiki. That stuff didn't help. I actually don't really believe in that stuff, and like I don't believe it's good. Um, and exercise helps, stretching helps, strength training helps. I was doing all these like a different. I was doing like a group for BPD, and the psychiatrists were like, I think, not helping the people very much. Um, they didn't seem like they were the most emotionally stable themselves. Um, and then I was doing EMDR. Um, that didn't really help like a ton. Um, I was doing trauma release exercises. Those were okay. I wasn't able to keep steady with it. I did used to do meditation. That did help, sort of. I'm kind of careful about meditation and work with consciousness, because we want to raise our consciousness, but you also have to be careful when doing it and do it in the right, like, healthy way. Because that's when you raise your consciousness, you're going closer to God, but you're also opening yourself up to other things too, right? Um, and so it can be complicated, so you have to be careful about it. Um, so anyways, I did all this different stuff, and then I went to university, and I worked on airplanes. I used to build the fighter jets, like F-35. They sent them to Israel and stuff. I think Israel bought some of them, so I don't really feel great about building weapons of destruction, but I don't even know how to feel about it, because I feel like war is part of life. Um, we know in the Bible that there will be wars in the end times. And I did all this work on semantics and everything, and now I'm writing a book. And I'm a Catholic, so I started going back to church. And now I'm thinking about switching to Orthodox Christianity, because I've been reading this book, Two Paths, by Michael Welton, and also been listening to Jay Dyer. He's making good case for orthodoxy, so I'm just trying to learn more about that. And yeah, that's mainly everything. And yeah, yeah, that's mainly everything. I learned about this stuff like Strange Loops by Douglas Hofstadter from the book Gödel, Escher, and Bach. And I also used to listen to like this guy Leo Gura, although I don't really listen to him anymore. I think he's more like New Age kookery in a way, in a sense. But Strange Loops, that's like now I'm more incorporating that into the book I'm trying to write, and it's just got to do with consciousness and then narrative theory. And then the idea is to encourage people to worship God, the Father Almighty, and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. So yeah. Anyways, that's everything. That was a lot, I know. But I really feel that it's good to go over these things in our life story because it gets the emotional punch out of it if you can go over it more times. And then the story also changes and it morphs. Like, if I'm able to work through these things more and more and more, then maybe one day I'll be at the point where I can more easily just, talk about like, oh, I had a bad childhood. I had a hard childhood. My childhood was really hard. And if people want to know more, I can tell them, oh, well, there was these various things that happen. And I don't have to feel extremely triggered and like I'm going to break down and cry or everything. You know what I mean? But I can be realistic and real and then have like a more genuine or authentic ability to talk to people and to get to know people. So that's it. That's all on my trauma list. And so I think for moving forward, that prayer is important. Therapy is important, and it's hard to find the right therapist, but other things can be therapeutic, but mainly you want something where you can work through the trauma triggers and everything and your story, and also the work through the things that are in your body, the body keeps the score style of releasing things through exercise, stretching, there's different stuff, acupuncture, massage, working on different spots of your body that hold tension. And I think that for moving forward, like focusing on interests is really important, like passions, because those are things that if other people share them, it's good, like you can share them together. And then it does feel kind of weird for me when other people share passions that I like politics and stuff, or psychology, or, narrative theory, or consciousness, meditation, stuff like this. Because, I don't know. Just feel kind of weird. One thing I heard the other day was that if you dissect a living thing, you kill it, which kind of made sense. Like, I kind of like just like doing stuff with people. I don't like, constantly like dissecting all the time. Although I feel like that's could be part of something, but I do like when when things move forward and you're just doing stuff with people, and you have like, yeah, maybe a project or maybe a shared activity or something like that, and you got motion, or you're moving and moving forward. And yeah, I miss having friends and doing stuff. I do feel like social media killed a lot of people's normal enjoyment or normal interaction, because it put this performative aspect onto what everybody was doing, where they always felt like, well, if something cool is happening, I can capture it right now and I can make myself look cool online, and then other people can like me and blah blah blah. So putting on a face, a front, or trying to essentially capture your life to put it online so that now your life is real and other people can see it, and you can grow this great following, and other people can be like, wow, I have no idea that this was happening, that you experienced. It's like, yeah, life didn't used to always just be like that. It used to be a little different. So it's about capturing life to extract from it. I don't think that's good. I think that's kind of evil. You know what I mean? But I think that it does kind of come down to intention. So, and that's where it can get confusing. Because if your intention is just that you're insecure and you want to build up a social following or whatever, then that can be kind of yeah, I don't know. And then people can have like a distant version that they think of themselves, and then they miss out on life, and life like passes them by because they're trying to like capture it or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It can be complicated conversation there. Um, and I think that life is always moving. When we think about time, time is always moving. Life is always moving. Um, and I think that energy is always moving as well. So I think energy never dies. God is energy, and He's pure goodness. And when we die, we'll be with God eternally. You know, if we repent, if we come to God, if we love God, we ask for mercy, we have faith in God. So, and I think that that will bring us back together. That's unity. That's that feeling, that higher consciousness, feeling of expansion, feeling of being with God, love, peace, the choice as well, the free will choice to be with God. So, yeah, that's my whole video for today.